The taking out of Yahya Sinwar happened by chance. It wasn't out of any intelligence or prior information. The Israeli forces were just there at the right time and at the right place. According to reports, his bodyguards seem to have reacted very early. They fired warning shots, or maybe they didn't react early because anyone that is armed, that person is a potential target. They are at war, by the way. So they fired the first shots, and the Israeli forces nearby returned fire. But upon closer investigation, they observed funny movements. They decided to investigate further by returning more fire, and they noticed that some of the bodyguards scampered to safety. They cleared the scene, but they continued observing the building until they noticed something funny, which they decided to investigate further by sending in a drone. That's the way they operate here. They always send in the drone to investigate to make sure the area is clear and safe before troops are sent in. That was when they observed this. Because of the scarf wrapped around his face, it wasn't obvious at the initial stage that this was Yahya Sinwar, weakened and sitting on the chair. But what was obvious was the fact that his right arm took a hit around the elbow. That was why he tried hitting the drone with a stick using his left hand. And after making the observation, the Israeli forces decided to send in more fire, this time from a tank. There are conflicting reports about how events unfolded after they sent in the last tank fire. One report says that they left the scene only to come back tomorrow to investigate, to find out what they hit. One important thing about this area of Rafah is the fact that they have rescued hostages here before. The second report said that they investigated immediately instead of leaving the scene and coming back in the next morning to investigate. So whichever it was, the most important thing is that they found this person lying in the rubble. And because of the uncanny resemblance to a high-value target, they decided to conduct a DNA test to be very sure. While they were waiting for the DNA test report to come out, people were already circulating the images on social media, claiming that the high-value target has been taken down. It was until the DNA test report came out that the Israeli officials released an official statement that they have taken down a high-value target.
Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas terrorist organization, who was responsible for the October 7th massacre.
They have his medical records in Israel, so conducting a DNA test would have been very swift. Yahya Sinwar was once treated for brain cancer in an Israeli hospital when he was in prison in Israel, but he was later released in a prisoner swap deal. Now that the mastermind of October 7th is no more, it is hoped that this can come to an end, that they can reach a ceasefire deal. It is believed that the reason why they haven't reached a ceasefire deal in the past is because of Yahya Sinwar. All deals negotiated by the United States in conjunction with Qatar, Egyptians, and Israelis, at the end of the day, Hamas will refuse the deal they proposed. They will make a proposal, and after the Israelis accept them, it comes back to them for ratification so that it will come into effect. They will now refuse it again.
66% of Gaza structures have been damaged. And you earlier today said that the U.S. supports the targeting of terrorist infrastructure, not civilian infrastructure. Does the U.S. believe 66% of Gaza's buildings are terrorist infrastructure?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Which is why we have been engaged to try to reach a ceasefire to end that conflict, which is why we have been pushing for a ceasefire to months. And I wish that Hamas would come to the table and work with us on a ceasefire. As you heard me saying earlier, Hamas has been absent for weeks, won't even respond to the mediators putting forward ideas asking whether they would agree to a ceasefire or not. Look, you can talk about Israel and the culpability that Israel has and the tough decisions that Israel needs to make. And it's absolutely true that Israel needs to make tough decisions to get to a ceasefire. But the way out of this conflict is a ceasefire. And it is Hamas that is missing in action right now that won't come to the table to talk about one.
So he was a stumbling block, preventing a ceasefire deal. It is now hoped that the rest of the commanders can accept a ceasefire deal so that this can come to an end. They should look at what is happening in Lebanon, how their leader was taken out, the person that replaced the leader also taken out, the third person was also taken out, or was it the fourth person that now said no, he doesn't want to be a leader, he just wants to act without being named as a leader, something like that. So they should take a cue from that and save their people from suffering. That's the most important thing. But like the world has seen over and over again, making simple decisions can be complicated because of personal interests.